Hey, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Talks on Immigration. We'll begin shortly talking about Daca with a special guest. Hey, everyone, and welcome. You are joining us for a very, very special event. We are starting a new weekly Facebook Live called Talks on Immigration with me. I am attorney Carlos Whetten. I am a practicing immigration attorney here in the United States, and I am based out of the Seattle office for Jaime Barron PC. We are a nationwide law firm that specializes specifically in U.S. immigration law. And so, what I would like to do with this program every week is talk about a different immigration topic and also to answer your questions that you've had about immigration law, whether that's DACA, which we're going to talk about today, or any other aspect of U.S. immigration law that you've kind of always had a question about, or even if you have a case with immigration law, I would like to answer your questions. Every week as well, I'll be bringing on a special guest, another attorney with Jaime Barron, to talk about these different topics and to answer your questions. So this week, I'm very happy to have somebody join us. His name is attorney Dalton McNatt out of our Dallas office. Dalton, how's it going?
It's going good. Hey, everybody. It's nice to meet you. Like Carlos said, my name is Dalton McNatt. I'm an attorney based out of the Dallas office for Jaime Barron. I've been an attorney for 2.5 years. I've been an immigration attorney for 2.5 years as well. My career has been spent here with Jaime Barron, and I'm happy to be here with Carlos today.
We're happy to have you, Dalton. We really are. And just to kind of give a little plug for Dalton, he is our attorney. He reviews a ton of applications. He also goes to court all the time. He goes to interviews. And so he's got a lot of experience in his time with Jaime Barron. He's gained a lot of experience in the areas of immigration law. So Dalton, today, what we would like to do is we'd like to talk about DACA, also known as Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Dalton, can you give us a little bit of introduction of what exactly is DACA and what it's not?
Yes. So DACA, like Carlos said, it stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. This is a discretionary immigration benefit that is given by USCIS. DACA started back in 2012 under the Secretary Neapolitano for USCIS. He had submitted a memorandum that talked about childhood arrivals, people that are brought over by their parents when they're a young age. It's a deferred action, so it protects you from some bases of removal. It is renewed on a 2-year basis, and it has been going on since 2012. DHS published what they called the DACA Final Rule in 2022, which updated the original 2012 policy memorandum that started DACA. And right now, it's a little bit of a toss-up area because of the courts here in Texas and in the Fifth Circuit in general. But it's something that they're still accepting renewals for at this time.
Thank you, Dalton. What I remember from DACA, which I actually was a law student when DACA first passed, and I was practicing in an immigration clinic at my law school. So I remember kind of the reasoning behind DACA was to protect these children who came to the United States based off of no decision of their own, who were, most of them were brought by family members who lived in the United States for their entire lives, who went to school in the United States, and didn't really have any options to immigrate legally. And so my understanding was, since this is an executive action and not a law, that's why it's the most controversial thing. That's why DACA itself is pretty controversial, because it was a decision from the executive branch and not a law passed by Congress. But now we're more than 10 years since DACA was implemented, and we have seen thousands, hundreds of thousands of people benefit from DACA. They receive work authorization, they're able to travel, they're able to kind of start businesses, to buy homes, to really kind of establish themselves in this country in a allowed way. I don't necessarily want to say a legal way, but in an allowed way to work here lawfully. And for many people, DACA is also a stepping stone to obtain legal permanent residency here in the United States. So Dalton, let me ask you, who can apply for DACA?
Of course. So there's a couple eligibility points when it comes to applying for DACA. The first eligibility point is that you have to be under the age of 31 as of June 15th, 2012. And that date, June 15, 2012, is going to come up in a couple different eligibility categories. Along with being under the age of 31 on June 15th, 2012, you also needed to have came to the United States before you turned 16. On top of that, you also must establish that you have continuous residence in the United States since June 15, 2007. So a couple years before 2012. But, you have to be under 31 as of June 15th, 2012. You have to be in the United States before you were 16, and you have to have continuously resided in the United States since June 15th, 2007. And when you are filing your DACA request, you also have to still establish that continuous physical presence. On top of that, you also need to show that you were physically present in the United States on June 15th, 2012. This could be used using circumstantial evidence that shows, I was paying bills, I was in school, whatever it may be, you need to show physical presence on or near June 15th, 2012. On top of that, you also have to show that you had no lawful immigration status on June 15th, 2012. This means you could have entered on a lawful immigration status, but that status must have expired or been taken away before June 15th, 2012. And you have to have no lawful status whenever you file for your DACA as well. On top of that, you must also either be currently enrolled in school or have received a high school diploma or a GED, or be an honorably discharged veteran of the United States Coast Guard or the Armed Forces.
Okay, so this, from what it sounds like to me, this is actually a very limited group of people. So people who are recently arriving to this country as children aren't eligible for DACA, correct?
No, because the biggest eligibility point is that you have to have been here physically on June 15th, 2007, and you also have to establish that you were here on June 15th, 2012. So anybody that has recently entered the country or entered after June 15th, 2012, they are not eligible for DACA.
And so we're talking these children now that would be eligible for DACA, they're not going to be younger than 16 or 17. So this is a very, very select group of people who entered the United States during a very specific time frame. So it's not kind of a free-for-all. It is a very select group of people. Now, Dalton, let me ask you as well, as far as what people can do with DACA, we mentioned a little bit that there's work authorization, there's also travel authorization. In what ways can DACA be used to obtain legal permanent residency in the future?
Good question. So the main path that I see with DACA recipients to obtaining a permanent resident status in the future is, either they entered legally originally, and that's how they got here, and then that status expired, and that's how they were able to obtain their DACA status. Or even if you entered the country illegally as a child and obtained DACA status, as Attorney Carlos said, you can obtain what's called advanced parole, which is a travel permit. It's a discretionary decision by USCIS. However, DACA recipients can apply for it. If you get approved for advanced parole, you travel on that advanced parole and enter back into the United States, you obtain your legal entry there. And from there, you can adjust status in the United States if you have the appropriate relationship with either a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen that can petition for you.
So Dalton, let's say that somebody meets all of these requirements for DACA. They've consulted with an immigration attorney to make sure that they are eligible for DACA. They had DACA when it was when the applications were open and being accepted, but then there's a risk that they might lose DACA. Can DACA be lost, and how can somebody lose their DACA?
Yes, so there's a couple different ways that you can lose DACA. As we said before, DACA is discretionary, and so you can always have the chance to lose it. The biggest ways to lose it is criminal issues. Being convicted of a felony, you can lose your DACA status based on that. You can be denied renewal based on that. Same as any significant misdemeanors. Significant misdemeanors means a misdemeanor that carries a term of imprisonment of up to 1 year, but not exceeding 1 year, and also has to be more than 5 days. On top of this, regardless of the imposed sentence, if your misdemeanor offense is for domestic violence, sexual abuse or exploitation, burglary, unlawful possession or unlawful use of a firearm, drug distribution or trafficking, or driving under the influence, this will be a misdemeanor that can exclude you from renewing your DACA status or obtaining your DACA status in general. For all the outside of the offenses that I listed above, if you are convicted of a misdemeanor and you are sentenced to time in custody of more than 90 days, you can also lose your DACA status based on that. This does not include suspended sentences, so you will need to consult with an attorney to have them review your criminal record if you are worried that that can make you ineligible. On top of that, if you commit 3 or more misdemeanors that don't arise out of the same circumstances, this can also disqualify you from eligibility for DACA. And on top of that, if USCIS deems that you pose a threat to national security or public safety, they can use their discretion to deny your DACA application as well.
Dalton, you bring up a very excellent point, which is a lot of the consultations that I've received as an attorney dealing with DACA issues have to do with criminal issues. When I get calls from clients who say, I was just arrested for a DWI. What do I do? How is this going to affect my DACA? And unfortunately, like you mentioned, Dalton, a DWI can be fatal for a DACA renewal and for keeping your DACA. So let me ask you this. If somebody was arrested for something like a DWI or any of those other crimes that you mentioned, what do you recommend that they do first?
So what I recommend always is to obtain legal counsel for your criminal matters. They will make your process a lot easier. Many criminal attorneys, even if they do not know about immigration consequences for criminal actions, they can always reach out to an immigration attorney and talk to them. Or you can pay for an immigration attorney to reach out to your criminal attorney and discuss the matter with them. Really what you're looking to do is you don't want to plead guilty to any of these crimes that could disqualify you from DACA. You don't want to plead no contest or no lo contendere is what they call it. You do not want to plead that either. You want to either have the charge lessened to a misdemeanor that does not disqualify you, or to have the charges outright dismissed.
Perfect. I completely agree. It's so important to obtain legal counsel. In Dallas and in Seattle, we have attorneys that we could refer you to, possible, excellent immigration or criminal defense attorneys that might be able to assist you. There might be options to plead to a lesser charge or a different charge that doesn't directly affect your DACA. Okay, so let's say somebody has DACA, they're staying out of trouble, no crimes, no issues. And you mentioned before, Dalton, that DACA is valid for a period of 2 years currently. Is that correct?
Yes, so DACA is valid for a period of 2 years. It is recommended that 6 months before your expiration, which will be shown on your employment authorization document or your work permit, it will also be shown on your approval receipt that you receive from USCIS. It is recommended that you file for renewal about 6 months before that comes. And really what you want to do before applying for renewal is you want to talk to an attorney. You want to let them know about any change in circumstances that may have happened in your life, whether it be criminal issues, even something as small as getting a traffic citation is something that needs to be considered. On top of that, you also want to make sure there are no immigration issues, that you didn't have a run-in with Border Patrol, that you didn't break your continuous residence by leaving the country. No criminal, like I said, no extra criminal issues. If you changed addresses, even that needs to be something that's documented on the form so that the receipt notices go to the right spot, so that your work permit is mailed to the right spot.
So what happens, Dalton, if somebody, is cruising along, they're working, they're living their lives, and they look at their card and they go, oh my gosh, my card expired a month ago. What do I do? Did they lose their DACA, or is there still an opportunity for them to keep their DACA?
No, so you don't lose DACA status just whenever the card expires. There's still a chance to keep your DACA status. However, your work permit's expired. You cannot legally work from that, from the month before, whenever it expired. You have been working illegally. However, You can then still apply for your renewal. You can show, hey, I was approved in the past. Here's a copy of my past approval notice. Here's a copy of my old employment authorization document, and USCIS will adjudicate that application as well.
As long as it's in within the first year after the expiration. I've had some clients that unfortunately they forget or they just lose track of their DACA. It's not a priority for them. And if more than a year has expired since that authorization, then unfortunately they have to apply again as if they are requesting an initial DACA. But that actually brings up a good point, Dalton. DACA's been in the news a lot in the last few years, especially with the prior administration and then also with the current administration. My understanding is that as of right now, USCIS is not approving new DACA applications. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So there was a court injunction issued on July 16th, 2021 from the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas, where the judge stated no more that, DACA is illegal. It didn't go through the right channels in order to be approved. It hasn't been enacted into law by Congress. So this court injunction, it allows for renewals to still occur. We can still file renewals, and renewals will still be adjudicated. They'll be decided on by USCIS. However, initials, they can be filed. Your initial DACA application, they can be filed. However, USCIS cannot adjudicate that petition. They cannot review it, they cannot approve it, and they cannot deny it. This court injunction was extended by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals and the District Court again on October 14th, 2022. So it seems, at least for the very near future, we will be unsure about the future of DACA.
That's exactly right. So as of right now, if somebody wants to apply for a DACA, they still can. They still can submit applications. However, USCIS has told us that they will hold those applications and not make a decision on it until there's a final decision in the courts. And as of right now, there's no final decision yet. But the good thing is, if you have DACA, keep renewing your DACA, keep staying out of trouble, keep avoiding those criminal issues. If you have the opportunity to travel, if you have people that you would like to visit, family members, or if you have a humanitarian reason to visit, a work reason, or a school reason, an education reason, purpose to leave the country, talk to an immigration attorney. Schedule a free consultation with me out of our Seattle office here in person. I can also do consultations over the phone. Schedule a consultation with Dalton or any of our wonderful attorneys in the Dallas area office or with our attorneys in Washington, D.C. to discuss your options to travel, if you need to renew your DACA, and if any of your life circumstances have changed. So Dalton mentioned criminal issues, immigration issues, travel, but also, did you get married? Do you have a child that's over the age of 21? Did your child join the military? Any of these options, please come and discuss it with us, because you may be able to take the next step in your immigration process, which is become a legal permanent resident. Or if there's an issue with renewing your DACA and you're not quite sure if you're eligible to renew, please come talk to us. We love talking about this every day. That's why we started this program, so that we could discuss immigration topics. We're a little bit of nerds when it comes to immigration issues. And so please discuss it with us. Feel free to send us your questions, and also to have a consultation with us, just to know and to kind of quiet those doubts in your brain about whether or not you're eligible to establish yourself here in the United States. Dalton, before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to add regarding DACA specifically?
Yes, so anybody that has DACA, if you are looking or think you may be eligible to apply for permanent residency or any other more permanent immigration benefit, please feel free to schedule a consultation with either myself or Carlos or any attorney with Jaime Parron PC. We would be happy to discuss your case with you and any possible fixes that could come in the future. Even if you do advance parole now and you are not currently eligible for adjustment of status, that legal entry can be helpful in the future if there was a change in laws or a change of circumstances.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dalton. And we hope and pray that this DACA issue gets resolved and that there's a more permanent solution for all of our wonderful DACA recipients here in the United States. And again, please feel free to join us every week as we're doing this show, talking about different immigration topics. I promise you we're going to keep things interesting and keep things relevant to those of you, our clients and our viewers. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time for Talks on Immigration.
Thank you, everybody.